All right. So in the last class, we had started with different channel access protocols, and I remember that I had finished it at slotted aloha. However, just to recapitulate a little bit, we will take a look at random access protocols, and then we will start further ahead after slotted aloha. Okay. So what is this random access protocol? Okay, and what is the main motivation behind it? All right. So whenever any node has a packet to send, it wants to transmit that packet at the full link capacity that the link actually provides, right? But when we call it as a random access protocol, in order to access this entire data rate of R, what nodes will do, they will simply not coordinate amongst each other. They will simply send whoever has a packet at whichever time instance, they will simply transmit that packet in the intention that they will make full use of the data rate R that is provided by the link. Okay. But if just understand this thing that if at all there is a scenario where more than one nodes are there and they are trying to transmit their packets whenever they are simply getting generated, the probability of collision becomes much higher in that case. Okay, so this non-coordination among nodes simply leads to collisions. Okay, so our main aim is to avoid this kind of collision. Okay, so that was the main reason, that is why we came up with several channel access protocols. Okay, but not only avoiding collisions, but we also want to have access to the full bandwidth. Okay, because that will basically give you the maximum throughput that you actually want for your data when it is getting received at the receiver's end. Okay, so these random access protocols or random access MAC protocols, they specify how to detect the collision and how to recover from collisions. I think, okay, you check the message later. All right. So some of the example random access protocols, random access MAC protocols, we have already studied about slotted Aloha. So we will study about Aloha today. Then we will go ahead and read about CSMA, CSMA CD, and CSMA CA. Okay. So CSMA stands for Carrier Sense Multiple Access. CSMA CD will be Carrier Sense Multiple Access with collision detection, and CSMA CA is Carrier Sense Multiple Access with collision avoidance. Okay, so let's start. So we had studied in the last class about slotted Aloha, and first of all, we need to first understand the assumptions that slotted Aloha provides. That is, all the frames are of the same size, the frames that are being transferred by different nodes over the medium. So it is assumed that all of these frames are of the same size. Okay. Then the second is that the time that is given to each node for transmission, for transmitting one frame, that is divided into equal size slots, and any node can transmit its frame, or any node can start transmitting its frame in that time slot only at the beginning of that time slot. Okay, in a given time slot, a node can transmit its frame only at the beginning of the time slot. Okay, in between it will not be able to transmit it. We are assuming that nodes are synchronized. Okay, that means they are basically having the information that which time slot is being used by whom and all that. Sorry, this is not the synchronization. The synchronization is that the time slot synchronization is there with everybody. Everybody knows that this is time slot 1 for everybody. Time slot 2 is same for everybody, like that. Now, what would happen if two or more nodes try to transmit their frames in the same at the same time in the same time slot? Then of course there will be collision and if there is a collision, then the nodes will be able to detect that there is a collision. Okay. So how does it work? What's the operation of slotted Aloha? So when the node obtains fresh frame, or whenever a fresh frame is generated, then the node would try to transmit that in the next slot that is available. Okay. So if there is no collision in that particular slot, then the node can send the new frame in the next slot. If there is a collision, then the node will retransmit the frame in each subsequent slot with a probability P until some success is achieved. Success here means until the node is actually received at the receiver's end. Okay. Now here P is a random probability. Okay. So P, the probability P that is being introduced here, that introduces a randomization. Okay. Now the question is, why are we having such kind of a randomization? Okay. So one hint in this case would be that there are a large number of nodes, or there are some n number of nodes, and the generation of frames that is happening, that is also following some kind of distribution. So for us it is still random, and the way the access, so therefore this implies that the way the time slot will be accessed, that is again going to have some kind of randomization, right? So this question, I am not giving this answer clearly, but I'm just giving you the hints that how the randomization is actually happening. So this is for you to just think about it, that why this probability is introducing a randomization here, and what is this randomization due to. All right, let's get to how slotted Aloha works. So here we do have a diagram which has been given, and with a very nice overview of collisions, empty slots, and success in a given slot. Okay, so the x-axis here is basically the time slots, where it is denoted that whether there was a collision here, or an empty slot was there, or whether it was a successful one. Okay. Now, if you remember in the previous slide, when we were looking at the operation, what was happening, that if there is a collision, then the node will retransmit a frame in each subsequent slot with some probability until success occurs. Okay. Now look at this one. Node 1 has a frame to transmit, node 2 has a frame to transmit, and node 3 has a frame to transmit. Okay. Now, unfortunately, all three of them try to transmit it at the same time slot, which will lead to a collision. Okay. Now, what is happening if there is a collision? Then, in the subsequent slots, the nodes will try to transmit with a probability P. Okay. Now, in the subsequent slot, nobody transmitted, so the slot is empty. Then again, in the third time slot, node 1 and node 2 started retransmitted their packets or frames, but since both of them tried to send at the same time, there was a collision. In the next slot, node 2, only node 2 transmitted, okay, and there was no collision, so it was a successful transfer. So for node 2, the transfer was successful. Okay. Then again, you can see that in the next slot it's empty, but in after that, both 1 and 3 they try to transmit, they face collision, and then so on and so forth. They again retransmit with some probability. Okay, so this is how slotted Aloha works. Now, what are the pros and cons of slotted Aloha? Okay, so the pros are that it is here using slotted Aloha, a single active node can continuously transmit at the full rate of the channel. That means it can transmit frames and use the full link capacity of the channel. Okay, and yes, it is fully decentralized. Only the time slots are synchronized. Okay, that's what I told, that everybody knows that what is the current time slot. Only that part is synchronized, rest nothing is synchronized in case of slotted Aloha. And this decentralization makes it very simple to understand and for the nodes to work. So there's no complexity from the node side that it has to endure while using slotted Aloha. Okay, only synchronization that it needs is just the time slots. That's it. But what are the cons in this? Of course, because nobody is getting to know that when somebody is trying to send their frames, collisions will happen. Okay. Now, if collisions are happening, then what's happening with the in the subsequent slots, nodes try to transfer their data with a probability p. Okay, and that may lead to some empty slots where nobody is actually trying to transmit their data, right? So we have empty slots also in this case, and empty slots means wastage of resources. So that's what's happening here. So leading to idle slots. Now, the nodes may be able to detect the collision in less than the time to transmit the packet. Okay. And of course, we do not have any kind of clock synchronization in case of slotted Aloha, which will definitely lead to all the collisions that we are having. Okay. So these are the different cons that we have using slotted Aloha. Now we had stopped the class at this slide where we were talking about the efficiency of slotted Aloha. So the efficiency here is nothing but the long run fraction of successful slots. Okay. So how do we find out the efficiency? So of course, n nodes. So it is assumed that n nodes are there with, and they have many frames to send. That means at any point of time, a node will have a frame to send. Okay, and each of these nodes, they will transmit the frames in a given slot with probability p. That's what we are doing, right? Now, probability that a given node has success in a slot, it can be given by p times of 1 minus p power n minus 1. If it is a probability that any node has a success, is of course n times of p times 1 minus p to the power n minus 1. If we want to find the maximum efficiency by denoted as p star, which basically maximizes this entire term, that is maximization of np times 1 minus p power n minus 1. Okay, so if we want to do this for many nodes, we have to take a limit over this. Okay, so as told in the last class, when you take limit n tends to infinity, this entire term, then this term comes out as 1 upon e. Okay, and that gives a 37% of efficiency. Okay, so this is how, or this is how we calculate the efficiency of slotted Aloha. All right, now we are okay, this is the repetition of the same slide. All right, now we are going to see pure Aloha. Okay, or simply we call it as Aloha. Okay, it is an unslotted Aloha, so there's no concept of slot, and it is much more so. If there are no slots, then of course it will become much more easier, and there's definitely no need for even synchronizing the time slots, right? So whenever a frame will arrive at a node, it will be the node will try to transmit it immediately, right? So with this, what will happen if there is no waiting from the node side even for a time slot, that is whenever frames are coming, it is simply trying to transmit the frames. This will lead to more collisions. Okay, and of course, as there is no synchronization also, there's no information about whether the channel is actually free or not. Okay, so let's see how it works out. So this is between two times stamps. T0 is the mid part, T0 plus 1 what's happening, and T0 minus 1 what's happening. Okay, so frame sent at T0 here collides with other frames that are being sent in T0 minus 1 and T0 plus 1, right? See, uh, at time T0, if somebody starts transmitting a frame, okay, we know that transmission takes time. We do have transmission delay over any medium, right? So until the packet that you are sending at time T0 is transmitted over the medium, okay, your transmission is not exactly done, right? But by the time this is happening, see, whatever packet was transmitted at time T0 minus 1, it can happen that that packet's transmission ended a little after T0. Okay, that means T0 plus delta probably. And by then, your transmission is also not fully done, the packet that was transmitted at T0. So in this case, what's happening? There will be a collision. Okay, if there's a collision, then of course your data is lost. Now that is a loss for the packet that was sent at T0 also, and the packet that was sent at T0 minus 1 also. Similarly at T0 plus 1 also, suppose the transmission of your data which you were transmitting at T0 did not finish until T0 plus 1. Okay, but at T0 plus 1 also there is some node that started transmitting its data. So in that case also there will be a collision and the data will be lost. Okay, so pure Aloha leads to much more number of collisions than our slotted Aloha. So that is why the efficiency of Aloha has been found out to be 18%. Okay. All right. Now let's get to it's a very important channel access protocol, okay? And that is carrier sense multiple access. Okay. Now with the name itself, you can understand we are saying carrier sense multiple access. That means you are sensing the carrier which is going to carry the packets. Okay. So that is the crux or the principal mechanism of this kind of a channel access protocol. Okay. So first we are going to study about simple CSMA. Okay. What does simple CSMA use? Simple CSMA uses the um, principle of listen before you transmit something. Okay. Why to listen? So this listen is equivalent to carrier sense here. Okay. That means you are first seeing that whether the channel or first listening that whether the channel is free or not. Okay. So first you sense the channel. If the channel is idle, that means it's totally free, nobody else is transmitting, then you start your transmission. If it is not idle, if it is busy, that means somebody else is trying to use the channel, sorry, somebody else is transmitting data in that channel, then you defer transmission for that particular timestamp. Okay, so this is what CSMA basically follows. This is simple CSMA. Now, CSMA has two variations, as told earlier, CSMA-CA and CSMA-CD. CSMA-CD is CSMA with collision detection, where if there is a collision, then the collision will be detected within a very short time. Okay. How the collision will be detected, we will see that when we read about CSMA-CD. Now, the colliding transmissions will be aborted, which will reduce channel wastage. And please look at the third point here, which says that collision detection is easy in wired networks but difficult in wireless networks. This is a very important question that may be asked to you, maybe in your placements or in your research sometime later, or even by me sometimes. Okay, so this is a very important point here. Okay, that collision detection is easy in wired networks and difficult with wireless networks. You need to answer this question. Okay, so once we read CSMA CD, you will understand why it's easier to do CD or do collision detection in case of wired networks and not in wireless networks. Okay. Now, let's start with CSMA. Okay, the simple CSMA, and see that how collisions can occur. Okay, so let's see. So this is the time frame T0 and T1. Okay, now collision can even now in this time frame itself, these nodes are going to transmit their data. Okay, now according to CSMA, what happens? A node will transmit its data, but before that, it will sense that whether the channel is free or not. If the channel is free, it will transmit. If the channel is not free, it will not transmit. It will defer for that particular time. Okay. Now, it might happen that two or more nodes are sensing at the same time that the channel is free, and then they try to send at the same time. That can happen. So, in that case, this kind of a situation will lead to a collision. So, even though CSMA seems better than Aloha or slotted Aloha, it still has the provision of collision. Okay, so collisions can still occur even if we do carrier sensing. Okay. Now, if we have collision, then what will happen? Entire packet transmission time that the node actually wasted on or invested on, that will be wasted. Okay. Now, how to determine the collision probability? The distance and the propagation delay, they play an important role in determining what should be the collision probability. So we'll see how to find this out. Okay, so this is how it is. Like, you have something that has started transmission at T0, something that has started transmission at T1. Okay, but as we showed in the last graph also, in the last diagram also, that even if you start transmission at a particular time instance, the transmission can happen over a longer period, and because of that, the a particular packet can collide with any packet that is generated in the next timestamp or that has been generated in the previous timestamp. Sorry, not generated, transmitted. Okay. So CSMA, simple CSMA leads to this problem. Okay, we have still not studied about the what we are going to do if there is a collision. We are only looking at the collision part. Okay, we are simply saying that it will be deferred. Okay, but how it is going to defer and what's going to happen, there's more to it. So we will see how that works out. Okay. Now CSMA CD is with collision detection, right? So here also it reduces the amount of time that is wasted in collisions. So if somebody is transmitting some data and it has detected a collision, so the transmission will be aborted then and there. Okay. In CSMA, what was happening? The transmission is happening, but that entire transmission transmission time is getting wasted. Okay. But here in this case, the transmission will be aborted on collision detection. Okay, so we're going to see CSMA CD algorithm that is used in Ethernet. Okay, so how it works out? So the NIC card, okay, or the NIC, the network interface card, it receives the datagram from the network layer and creates the frame. Okay, then what will it do? the NIC will actually sense the channel. If the channel is idle, it will start the transmission of the frame. If it is busy, then it will wait until the channel is idle. Okay. So after that only it will transmit. So if the NIC card senses that the channel is busy, it is not idle, so it will wait until the channel is idle. So that means it has to continuously check that whether the channel is actually idle or not, right? So that's actually a wastage of a lot of energy, right? You have to continuously keep checking. Now, when do you check? You can check at every timestamp that whether the channel is idle or not, or you can check periodically. If you check in every timestamp, then you are wasting a lot of energy. If you are checking periodically, then you might miss some timestamp which is actually idle, right? So these are some challenges which are there whenever you are working with CSMA. Okay. All right. Let's get back to the algorithm. So if the NIC card senses that the channel is busy, then it will wait until the channel is idle and then it will transmit the frame. Okay. Now, if the NIC card transmits the entire frame without any collision, then it is done with the frame and work is done. If it detects another collision while sending, then and there it will abort the transmission and it will send a jam signal to inform that there is a collision that has occurred, right? Okay. Now there comes the important part here. Okay. Once there is a collision that is detected, the transmission is aborted and of course it will send a jamming signal. After that, the NIC or NIC enters the binary exponential backoff phase. Okay. What is binary exponential backoff? Please take a look here. After the mth collision, the NIC chooses k at random from 0 to 2 power m minus 1. Okay. So this is your collision window. Okay. So this is the, you can call it as a contention window or collision window. Let me call it as contention window. Okay. So the NIC chooses any k at random out of this set. Okay, out of this contention window. Now, what will the NIC do? It will wait k times of 512 bit. Okay. So k times of 512 bit times, and then again it will start sensing the channel. Okay. So essentially what NIC is doing, NIC is sensing the channel. Once it senses the channel is busy, what it will do, it will send the jam signal to everybody else, stop the transmission, and then it will go to back off state. That means it is deferring for some amount of time. Right? When I was asking, when I was telling that the NIC card has to wait until the channel is idle, and the question is that how long do you wait? Right? How long do you wait for a particular channel to become idle? How long do you wait until you transmit next? That is followed by this procedure known as binary exponential backoff. Okay. So for the mth collision that the NIC faces, it chooses out of this contention window of 0 to 2 power m minus 1, it chooses any number at random that is denoted by k. Okay. And then it will wait until k time slots. And when we say k time slots, it is given by k times of 512 bit. Okay. So that means it is waiting until k times of 512 bit time. Okay. After it waits until this much time, it will go back to step 2 where it will start sensing the channel again. Now, if it senses the channel is busy again, then again it will go to the back off stage, right? So this is going to happen, all right? So if your channel is having larger number of collisions, That means there are a large number of nodes and they're having a large number of collisions. So in that case, every time a particular NIC, if it wants to transmit, it will face the probability of the NIC facing or sensing the channel to be busy will also increase because collisions are increasing. So if that increases, then the NIC will go to more and more number of backoffs. Okay. So if it goes to more and more number of backoffs, then also the NIC is actually losing out on the time that it could have used if it was free, it was not on backoff, it could have used to transmit the frames if at all the channel was idle at that time. Okay, so it is a pretty it's a clever algorithm, but it has its own flaws. Okay, so CSMA CD is it's one of the one CSMA CA and CSMA CD. These are uh, two most important algorithms that you will actually read in this chapter. So please take a look at this, okay, and see what are the pros and cons of this algorithm that can actually hamper the transmission of data between a source and a destination. Okay. So now let's find out the efficiency. Okay. So I will not get into the details of how we are finding this out, but let's see. Uh, the T prop is basically nothing but it denotes the maximum propagation delay between two nodes in a LAN. T trans is the transmission time to transmit a maximum size frame. Okay, and the efficiency is given by 1 upon 1 plus 5 times T propagation divided by T transmission. Okay, so the efficiency goes to 1 as T propagation goes to 0 and as T transmission goes to infinity. Right, from this you can actually see that 1 by 1 plus 5 times of T propagation divided by T transmission. Okay. So CSMA CD of course gives a better performance than Aloha. It is simple, it is cheap, and the best part is it is decentralized. Okay. Now, let me tell you a little bit on CSMA CA. Okay. So CSMA CD is with collision detection and CSMA CA is simply collision avoidance. Okay. So what we do in CSMA CA, you sense the node will sense the channel. If the channel is free, it will transmit the data. If the channel is busy, then it will go to back off. It will not send the jamming signal that was being sent in case of collision detection. Okay. Whenever there is a collision that is whenever the channel is sensed busy or there's a collision that is detected. Okay, if a collision is detected, transmission is aborted, but no um, jamming signal is sent. If the channel is sensed to be busy, then the node will simply go to a back off stage. So in this way, the collision is avoided, but it is not getting detected. Okay, nobody else is getting to know that okay, there was a collision that had happened. Only people are getting to know, or sorry, nodes are getting to know that um, the channel is busy. Okay, so that is the difference between CSMA CD and CSMA CA. All right. Now let's come to the next type of protocols, which are taking turns MAC protocols. Okay, so we have learned about three different MAC protocols, right? Three different types of MAC protocols. One is channel partitioning protocol, where what we are doing, we share the channel efficiently and fairly at high load, right? Like, and then if it is inefficient at low load, that means there is a delay in channel access. and 1 upon n bandwidth is allocated even if we have only one active node. Okay, if you have n nodes and you have uh, some bandwidth available with you, so 1 upon n of the bandwidth will be allocated even if you have you have only one active node. So that means you are not using the bandwidth properly, entire bandwidth properly. So channel partitioning MAC protocols are inefficient, inefficient in giving the entire link capacity when it comes to lower number of nodes. Okay. Then, in order to use the bandwidth efficiently, random access protocols were proposed. Now, random access protocols are efficient at low loads, but when it comes at higher number of nodes or higher load at the channel, in that case, it will lead to a larger number of collisions, and that will further reduce the efficiency. Okay. Now we are coming to the third type of protocols, MAC protocols, which are known as taking turns protocol, which tries to take the best of both worlds. So one of the examples of taking turns protocol is polling. Okay. So if you learn about Bluetooth, then you will understand that Bluetooth uses the polling mechanism. Okay. So polling, by the name of it, just means that you simply ask one after the other nodes to transmit. Okay, whenever the turns come. So now who will do that? There should be some centralized node that will tell that okay, this is the turn for sending for node A, this is the turn for sending for node B. It will invite each one of them one by one to transmit. Okay, so that means it is basically polling each of the nodes that if you have some frame, then please transmit. If you do not, then it will go to the next node. Okay. So what happens? The master node invites other nodes to transmit. Okay. Now this has been this is given as a term here. The second point, that it is typically used with dumb devices. So it's basically like devices which are not using much more complexity or intelligence in transmitting their data. Okay, so in those cases, pooling becomes a better option where there will be one node which will act as a master node and all other nodes will act as slave nodes. Okay, and the slave nodes will listen to what the master node is saying. So whenever the master asks any of the slave nodes, if you have, do you have any frame to send? If it has any frame to send, it will transmit. If it does not, then the master will go to the next node, or it will ask any of these slave nodes to transfer their frame if they have any frame at that point of time. Okay, the what are the problems in this case? So the master is basically polling, right? So that will cause some polling overhead for the master. And with this polling, so it depends on the master, right? How, in which sequence it is actually going to poll each of the nodes. Okay. And if at all there's some other node which is having a larger frame and which has been polled and it starts its transmission, then all the other nodes which do have frames, they have to wait until the master actually comes to it. Okay, so this will increase the latency. So latency is a concern in such cases. And of course, because it is a centralized structure, the master is having the control here. So it will lead to a single point of failure. Okay, so this is what polling is. And this is used in case of Bluetooth. Okay, one of the examples of polling is Bluetooth. Okay, so this is how the polling will happen. So the master will, as I told, that the master will ask any of the nodes or poll to any of the nodes that whether it has some data to send. If it has some data to send, then it will transfer. Okay, all right. So this is how the data transfer is happening. Now let's get to the next type of taking turns protocol, which is known as token passing. Okay. So in this case, as the name suggests, if at all somebody has a token, then only it will be able to transmit the data. Otherwise, it will not. So what is this token? This is simply a small control data. Okay. So what happens? This control token is passed from one node to the next in a sequential manner. Okay, whenever a node gets a token, then it will be able to transfer the data. Okay. So this token is getting passed to a particular node. It has nothing to send. So the token will be passed further sequentially to this particular node which has some data. Now it will transfer the data. Okay, it is transferring here, it is transferring the data. And then after that, once the data transfer is done, then then again the token will be passed further to the next node. Okay. Now, what are the concerns for such a mechanism? One is the token overhead. Every time somebody has to transfer the data, then it has to wait for the token to come to it, and then after that only it can transfer the data. Okay. Now this will also lead to higher latency, and of course a single point of failure because we are dependent on the token to transmit the data. Okay. So these are the two different types of taking turns MAC protocols. Okay, polling and token passing. Right. Now we will see a unique type of transmission. It's not unique. It's just that it is using FDM, TDM, and random access together. So let's look at what happens in the cable access network. Okay. So all of these houses, as we have seen that what happens in cable access network. Okay. You have your cable system, cable connection at each house, with which TV is also getting TV is also using that connection, and you are getting your internet connection also from the same connection, right? So what will be the downstream data? So you will send internet frames also, TV channel transmission also, and all of this control data also. That will all of this will be transmitted downstream at different frequencies. If you remember in cable access network, if you remember in the first class, I mean first chapter that we had studied that it uses FDM to transmit all of these different types of data. Okay, so all of these different types of data, that is internet frames, TV channels, control data, they are sent at different frequencies. Okay. Now, this is downstream data from one node to another node in the downstream, not towards the cable head end. Okay. Now, this downstream channel, okay, so these multiple downstream multiple downstream FDM channels, they are basically broadcast channels which provide up to 1.6 Gbps of link capacity. Okay. Now, what about upstream? Okay. So the upstream channels also, again, since we are using FDM, we have multiple upstream channels which have link capacity of up to 1 Gbps per channel. Okay. Now, what would happen? There will be multiple users which would contend in order to transfer their data over these channels which are available. Okay. Now, the users, they will contend using random access channel mechanism, right? They will use random channel access mechanism uh, in order to transfer their data. Okay. So for upstream transmission of at different time slots, different users will try to transmit their data using random channel access mechanism. Okay, and all the others, they will be assigned time slots as per TDM. Okay, so this is how your cable access network will work. Now let's take a figurative look here. So from the CMTS to the users, we have the downstream channel, as I told earlier, and towards the CMTS, whatever data is being transmitted, that is an upstream channel. Okay. So now you have a frame interval given here, that is T1 and T2. All right. So within this T1 and T2, what is being done is some mini time slots are being divided. Okay. So these are mini slots that contain request frames. Okay. Now, whenever we are transmitting upstream channels, then these mini slots are assigned. Okay. So these mini slots are assigned to the users so that they can transmit their data. Now, if you assign if you assign the time slots, even in that case, you will have some kind of contention, right? Because if more than one users try to access in the same time slot, in that case, there will be some kind of contention, right? So what is being used here? DOCSIS, that is Data Over Cable Service Interface Specification. Okay, this is being used in case of cable access network. What we do here, in the upstream, FDM is used. Okay, so FDM over upstream and downstream frequency channels. That means you just divide the channels into different frequencies. For the upstream specifically, these frequencies are basically divided into small time slots known as mini slots. Okay, so in that way you are using TDM there. Okay, in this case, what happens? Some slots are assigned and some slots have contention because more than one users are trying to access these time slots. Okay, so downstream, um, the downstream map frame is assigned to upstream slots, and the request for upstream slots and data are transmitted using random channel access with binary exponential backoff, or here it is simply binary backoff, not exponential. That means if at all there is a collision, then backoff for the next time slot, otherwise simply start transmission. Okay, so request for upstream slots and data transmitted um, they are transmitted with random channel access with binary backoff in selected time slots. Okay, so this is how your cable access network works. So what is the summary of MAC protocols that we have studied until now? So we have studied about channel partitioning, the first step of MAC protocols, where we are simply dividing the channel in a way such that users do not have collisions. Okay, or we avoid the collisions as much as possible. So how is it done? You either divide the frequency into different frequencies uh, where users can actually transfer their data at different frequencies, or you use TDM where you divide the time axis into different time slots and each user can transmit data at different time slot. What will be the problem with this case? That the entire bandwidth will not be used by a particular user. Okay, if link capacity R is provided by the bandwidth to a given user, the user will not be able to use the full link capacity because it is either using a part of the bandwidth by using different frequency when it is using FDM, or it is simply not using it for the entire time, for a long amount of time to transfer all its data. It is using it for a very small time slot. Okay, so that is the problem in case of channel partitioning. Then we came into channel access, which is dynamic in nature. So we have studied about Aloha, slotted Aloha, CSMA and CSMA CD. So we have seen how Aloha works. There is no times a division of time into slots. So whenever there is some data, it is transmitted by the node. It leads to a very high number of collisions, but it is decentralized in nature. So that is why it was thought to be good, because it could give the entire link capacity to the number of nodes which are trying to access the channel. However, it has a very low efficiency of 18%. And we came to slotted Aloha, where we divided the time into slots, and then nodes could transfer their frames only at the beginning of a time slot, leading to a 36% efficiency. Next came CSMA, where if there is some collision that is occurring, the transmission will happen. But if the channel is sensed to be busy, then the node will defer from transmitting. Okay. So in this case, what's happening? The transmission time is lost. Okay, that efficiency is lost, and collisions is also pretty high, but it is distributed in nature, and hence it is favorable. Same for CSMA-CD, but in CSMA-CD, collision detection is used, and after a collision is detected, then the node will abort the transmission. It will send a jam signal so that others will get to know that there's a collision, and after that, it will go to back off, and the back off can be binary exponential back off, where if mth collision is being faced by the node, then it will take, or it will go to back off with case slots, where k is chosen from the contention window of 0 to 2 power n minus 1, m minus 1. Okay. So after that, again, it is start sensing the channel. Okay. So CSMA-CD is used in Ethernet, and CSMA-CA is used in 802.11 standard, which is your standard Wi-Fi standard. Okay. And then we came to its variations are, of course, 802.11 A, B, C, and ABGN. Okay. So these are Wi-Fi standards. Then you have your taking turns protocol, which we have seen that polling, which is used in Bluetooth, FDDI, and then token passing. Okay. So these are the summary of MAC protocols. All right. In the next class, we'll start with the next module of this chapter. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Uh, Otherwise, I am actually done with the class for today.